Public Affairs programming on WQPT is brought to you by the Singh Group at Merrill Lynch, serving the wealth management needs of clients in the region for over 25 years.
Can the cities do a better job of being, well, the cities? And can one group change our political discourse and bring civility to the 2018 election campaigns? Their plan of action on the cities. The mud is already flying on a television set near you. We know the Illinois gubernatorial election will be loud, nasty, and expensive. But what about the rest of the campaigns? And will Iowa's race be more tame? One group's plea is just ahead. But first, a game plan for the economy of the region. We've seen good times and bad, and we've seen a renaissance or two as well. Quad City Chamber of Commerce is in the midst of economic and regional planning that gets us to the year 2030 and beyond. And now there's a new person helping to lead that effort. And joining us is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Quad Cities Chamber of Commerce, Paul Rumler.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thanks, Jim. Great to be here.
Tell me all about your history with the Chamber, because this isn't your first time here, of course. I mean, you were gone just 2 years. It seemed like yesterday.
Grew up in the Quad Cities. I have a special place in my heart for this place. And when presented with the opportunity to come back and have a big impact on this community through the Quad Cities Chamber, I jumped at it.
Now, like I said, for the last 2 years you were at Grand Rapids. Yep. It's about 3 times the size of the Quad Cities. Yep. What did you get from there that you think, wow, wait a second, I learned a couple things, I can bring it over here?
Yeah, from a chamber perspective, it's really about making sure that we have a relevant program that's serving businesses. So for here, we do great things from a community and economic development standpoint. I want to make sure we're serving the small and medium-sized and family-owned business that is driving progress as well.
Grand Rapids, like I said, much larger. Also, really an economic catalyst for the state of Michigan right now. I mean, while Detroit might be in decline, Grand Rapids certainly is anything but.
Yeah, so to have a plan and to implement on that plan and make sure you're actually putting public and private dollars being the important emphasis there, towards that plan is what Grand Rapids has done. And I think that's what is exciting about the Quad Cities potential in our future with the Q2030 plan. We now have a vision, we have collective buy-in and a regional approach to that. Now it's just about making it happen.
Does the departure for 2 years giving you a different perspective as you come back? I mean, you're not looking at the Quad Cities with rose-colored glasses. You worked in the trenches over the last few years, you know, trying to build the Quad City Chamber of Commerce, and now you kind of go away and look back.
Yeah, it gave me invaluable experience to lead another chamber, to be the number 2 at that chamber and make some of the big decisions. And so to come back with new experience is great, but perspective on this community, it's changed a lot in the last 2 years. The regional collective buy-in is different, and I think with each day that goes on, it gets better.
Explain that, the regional collective buy-in.
Yeah, so the Quad Cities has been known to be a parochial community.
A river divides us.
Between cities, between states.
Right.
And I think what I've seen is a common buy-in to that we are a Quad Cities region. It doesn't matter if it's Iowa or Illinois, we're in it together. So that means that I care about what happens in Iowa as much as I care about what happens in Illinois. When I say that collectiveness, that's what I mean. Now, it desperately matters what happens in each city and each state because that's where people live, that's where we own our business. So we want to make sure that at the Chamber we have a collective approach to helping all of our communities, but we do it on a regional level.
Well, let's be honest, 25 years ago, there was a real fear of one city poaching from the other city, and there was animosity growing. Is that now completely in our past?
No, it's not, but I think it's generational. I think that the younger generation that is right now coming in to be business owners and leaders in this community see the Quad Cities differently than maybe past generations have.
Talk about youth. The one thing that the Chamber of Commerce has been very active is trying to help young entrepreneurs grow their businesses or even start their businesses or even consider starting their businesses, as well as trying to create this networking of young people to keep the area vibrant. How critically important is that?
You said it for me. It's definitely a priority of this Chamber. That's what I believe we need to do to win that next generation, is we need that next person who has an idea to not only know that they have a great idea, but what they need to do with it. I don't want people sitting at home thinking, oh, I wish I would have done X. I want people to have that idea, bring it forward, and go make it happen. They need to actually go make it happen and put some personal skin in the game and make an investment and see their future become that reality.
In so many different ways, when we look at the economy of an area, we kind of looked at the macro. I mean, we kept looking at the farm equipment economy and what that did for this area. I mean, it put the Quad Cities on the map, and then the 1980s comes. And now we're rethinking, like I said, a renaissance. Are we rethinking what a business is?
I think we're going to redefine what success looks like. So in economic development world, you're always trying to attract that 500 employee factory or facility, and we've been doing that. And we've been outpacing other regions. So Sterilite, Kraft Heinz, Arconic, major expansions in the last 3 to 4 years. Sterilite was the 4th largest project in the country last year with 2.5 million square feet of space. It's massive scale, big investment. So we're lucky to have them, but we're going to grow faster and more sustainably if we focus on the small and mid-sized family-owned business that has ties here, that if we can help them go to their next level of success, we'll expand our region.
But how important is the manufacturing base? Because you want to have a diversity of business types in the area.
Yeah, we are who we are. Manufacturing is about 20% of our economy. So at the Chamber, we're focused on how do we help them innovate? How do they apply new technology? How do they help adjust to the workforce? How do they adjust to automation? And make sure that they are either a good OEM, a lead company like Deere, or that they're well connected in the supply chain like many of our companies are. If we have that strong relationship and they have that know-how and they're on the leading edge, we'll be a very successful region.
OEM being original equipment manufacturer, if I remember my business terms right. I appreciate that.
That was a good test.
Thank you very much. But the other area that, I mean, besides manufacturing, is that to try to get that high-tech job, that new cutting-edge type of business, which I think we saw some other areas. I kind of point to Cedar Rapids, I look at Des Moines. Yeah. You see that perhaps that they had more success 20, 15 years ago.
Well, I think that's where we combine our conversation with entrepreneurs and that next generation. We have to create those. We have some very great young leaders in the tech industry that are right now talking about alternative reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, also digital platforms. You're also seeing the music scene come out. That is all done to attract that young, vibrant, new technology company or just the new ideas.
I know that the Chamber was talking a great deal about that. I mean, you just think of business retention or job creation, but also to create a stronger community and a more, do you say a hip community? I mean, is that exactly it? And the fact that we don't have a strongly based 4-year university here, of course Western's got its campus here, but that vibrancy is really even more important when you don't have these huge influxes of young people.
I think we do have an influx of young people. They're isolated right now on their campuses. And so we have a University and President's Council that's talking about how do we actually get those college students to have more buy-in and more involvement in our community, because we have thousands of college students, about 30,000 college students in a 90-mile radius. In the local Quad Cities itself, it's probably 10 to 12,000. We have that base. I think there's great potential to talk to them about what their future could be. And we have some programs at the Chamber, like Intern Quad Cities, that takes them out of their workplace at night and shows them all the activities that they have at their disposal.
I wanted to talk about that program in particular. Why don't you explain that and how people can get involved?
Yeah, so right now we have about 250 interns. So if you are actively involved this summer at a company and you're interning, but you don't have a social network or a social base, people just need to sign up with us. It's free. We have events. They had an event on the river. They're going to the River Bandits game. They're seeing all of the attractions, meeting up at a restaurant. It's not just a go out and meet up at a bar. This is really about engaging with your fellow interns that are talking about their own experience here in the Quad Cities, so that way they're attracted to stay here.
Been very active also in the under 30 people. You've got the YP Network, the Young Professionals. How has that fostered growth in the Quad Cities? Yeah. Because that was created while you were here in your first stint.
Yeah, it was actually one of my first jobs was to be the director of the Young Professionals Network.
So you got to be proud of how that's been developed.
I am, and that was founded in about 2003, 2004. We're one of the first chambers to do that. And we've been seeing an increase of young people in the Quad Cities. Over the course of the last 2 decades, you've seen a measurable impact of the number of under 40-year-olds that are living here. We need more, and that's why we're going to continue to stay invested in those programs.
I was reading an interview with you when you were talking about what you learned from Grand Rapids before coming here, and I'm going to paraphrase, and hopefully I get it somewhat right, is that in a lot of ways the Quad Cities had depended on outside consultants kind of to help decide what the future should be, but that you think the Quad Cities can easily drive the Quad Cities' own future.
Yeah, so it comes from the notion that the Quad Cities is a really special place. To understand how to work on a business, advise a business, or be a contractor, you should be from the Quad Cities. You have to know your clients, and you have to know the workforce, you have to know what you're trying to get to. So instead of relying on consultants from Chicago, let's rely on the consultant or the business that's down the street and do business with one another. It's not a buy local campaign. This is a mindset shift that we have great expertise in our community. We need to identify it, recognize it, and use it.
Is that kind of also part of the Big Table project that's been going on? It's been a real way to get people to almost become greater stakeholders in our area?
Well, from my perspective, it's about belonging and creating that sense of belongingness, not only at the chamber, it's one of my priorities, but also in the community. It doesn't matter if you've been here a day, a decade, or 5 generations. I want people to know that they have a stake in our community's future. And not only that they have a spot at the table, but they have a role in making their ideas become a reality. And that's what the big table is all about. Because often there's a group of 50 or 100 people making decisions in a boardroom. And the general residents or voters don't believe they have a role or a stake in that. And they do. And the big table is a great example. Ignite Quad Cities, another of the initiatives that the Chamber is actively involved in. I mean, how do you see that as a driving force for the future? Well, that is all about entrepreneurship. It's not programming, it is meetup. So entrepreneurs are meeting up on a weekly basis talking about ideas that they have. That's what we need to do to get the ideas out of people's heads and actually into action. And how do you measure success? I mean, can you measure success so far? You've seen our entrepreneurial culture expand in the last 5 years. If you look at, say, the co-working spaces, if you look at the tinkering space, the hubs, there are actually entrepreneurs that are now being able to apply their ideas. And you're seeing new businesses start as a result. One area that you were actively involved in your last stint, of course, was bringing passenger rail to the Quad Cities. You got some good news, once again, at least from the Railroad Administration, that an extension is going to be allowed, more time for Illinois to get its act together and to actually update the tracks and do all of the other mechanisms that could get passenger rail from Chicago to the Quad Cities. Does it surprise even you that it's taking this long, or that there's that many roadblocks or train track blocks, as you may call them? Nothing surprises me right now. Fair enough. However, I'm shocked that it hasn't been prioritized more than what it has been. We had funding received in 2010. We're 8 years later, and it's disappointing that it hasn't been a higher priority to get that going, because I know that there's a lot of willing riders and economic growth tied to that rail line. Why do you think it's a game changer? Do you really think that it's going to be more than a novelty? I mean, like after 2-3 years, that it's not going to be that much of an economic driver? Being connected to the 3rd largest city in our country, the Chicago region, with all the people, the money, the ideas, I think it's a great thing that we need to make sure that we are connected to that mega region, because that will allow us to recruit talent, it will allow us to recruit business, and to survive as the competition really heats up. We need to be tied to Chicago more and more, and having that passenger rail connection is that tie. But is it going to be really all that reciprocal? I mean, I can picture people in the Quad Cities going, I want to go to Chicago. I can't picture somebody from Chicago necessarily constantly saying, I got to get a good deal in downtown Moline. It's amazing. So business travelers will be here, and we have this beautiful thing called the Mississippi River. Right. Rather unique, and we haven't really marketed that as much as what we could. We have a beautiful new I-74 bridge that's being built. How often does a $1.5 billion bridge get built? You know how many people would love to come see that? A lot. And I think that if we had passenger rail, you'd be seeing people come here much more often. As you said, it is a link to Chicago. I mean, is that like critically important as far as the ability for people to travel from region to region to region to region? I mean, is that just the new normal? If you want to get nerdy, to be connected to a major mega world city like that is life or death for a region like the Quad Cities. How so? That's where the money is going to be driving. That's where the people are going to be attracted to. If you look at the younger generation right now, they're flocking to big cities. So we need to be connected to those big cities if we're going to survive. If we're cut off by transportation or by our economy, we're going to continue to shrink and stagnate. Just a few moments left. Yeah. What do you see as your biggest challenge right now? I mean, I know every challenge to you is probably an opportunity, but what's the biggest challenge we're facing? Picking one. Really? Picking one. Big Table brought out tons of ideas. We're going to pick a few and go implement them. Is there a certain complacency that worries you? No, for me, it's just how do we maintain the momentum of a region? Thinking regionally, acting regionally. So if it's anything from supporting a regional airport to supporting regional riverfront development, it's how do we continue that momentum so that way people believe in the future of their city, say it's Moline, and in the Quad Cities in general. So keeping that momentum going. And I'll let you give you your best pitch as the end. I mean, when you think of the Chamber of Commerce, you think of these bankers and you know, white shirts, dark ties and all that. The fact that you're really reaching out to the entrepreneurs and the small business people, that's what you think is the heart and soul of the Chamber? I just left a meeting with our Chamber ambassadors. They go to all of our ribbon cuttings. They are our eyes and ears, meeting with members on a regular basis. They're normal people. And they are very engaged in our organization, and we have thousands of members and volunteers, and we are as involved and committed to this community as we can be. And so we're looking for others that have that similar mindset to join the chamber, get resources to grow their business, and be involved in the future of our community.
The President and Chief Executive Officer of the Quad Cities Chamber of Commerce. I get that right. Paul Rumler, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Still ahead, can the next election be the nicest ever? But first, we're finishing up golf week in the cities and heading into the summer. It is a lot that still is on our plate that you want to do in the days ahead. And here's Laura Adams with some things you may want to consider if you go out and about.
This is Out and About for July 9th through 15th. Hi, I'm Laura Adams. Catch exciting professional golf action at the John Deere Classic or celebrate America's truckers at the Walcott Truckers Jamboree at Iowa 80 Truck Stop. The Illinois City Veterans Memorial Committee's trivia fundraiser takes place July 14th, and Mercado on 5th is back July 13th with food, vendors, activities, and music. Or enjoy fun during the Mercer County Fair at the Mercer County Fairgrounds. Step back in time to the Roaring Twenties at the fundraising gala at the Hauberg Center July 14th. And the 34th annual Moonlight Chase in Eldred features entertainment along the racing route lined with luminaries. The Great River Road Vintage Trailer Rally is held July 14th at Illinois Forest Preserve in Hampton, and there's free admission to the Figge Art Museum through August 12th. Catch Music on the Lawn at the Deer Wyman House July 11th with Tim Kubert and the Space Cadets, while the Moline Center's summer concert series at Bass Street Landing features Cosmic. The Mississippi Bend Players present Tennessee Williams' classic memory play Glass Menagerie at the Bruner Theater Center through the 22nd. Mount Carroll's Timberlake Playhouse presents the rousing musical comedy The Full Monty through the 15th. The musical A Chorus Line is being presented through the 14th at Quad City Music Guild, while the beautiful musical The Bridges of Madison County finishes its run at Circa 21 on the 14th. For more information, visit wqpt.org.
Thank you, Laura. Beth Ann Heitgerken is not afraid of doing something new. Last year, she teamed up with 2 other women to start the band Bees. Beth Ann brings with her a talented voice, plus a guitar and ukulele. That's what she brought to the Black Box Theater in Moline as she sat down for a solo performance of some of her original works. Here's Beth Ann Heitgerken with Wish You the Best.
Sometimes I fall into the past, think too much on things that did not last. As I grow older, now I know I'll still be with you wherever you go. Let it go with the rest, and I wish you the best. Many times, many thoughts, many times I got caught. As I grow older, now I know I'll still be with you wherever you go. Let it go with the rest, and I wish you the best. I still love you all the time. I still miss you. I still cry. My heart is full of love, tender, sad, and good. I don't forget you did all you could. Let it go with the rest, and I wish you the best. La da 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 da. La da da do do da do da. La da 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 da. La da da do do da do da. La da da do do da do da. La da da do do da do da.
Beth Ann Heitgerken with Wish You the Best. It's election season right now, and with that comes the knockdown, drag-out battles we've come to expect. But what if we expected a civil discussion of issues, candidates arguing against each other's merits? What if our campaigns were what we aspire to, rather than the lowest blow or the most clever attack? The nonpartisan Iowa political group 50-50 in 2020 wants to see gender equity in Iowa's legislature, 50% female, by the year 2020. But they've also come out with an op-ed piece calling for civility in the upcoming election. We sat down with one of the founders, former Iowa State Senator Maggie Tinsman. I started with a simple question. Why now?
Why now is because we're going into the political season of electing on both sides of the river, of the Mississippi and Illinois and Iowa. We're electing governors, we're electing lots of legislators for our state legislative races, as well as congressional people. And we're trying, in Iowa, we're trying to get ahead of any negativism. We haven't quite been successful in Illinois, but Illinois and Iowa, we hope to say, don't demonize your opponent. Talk about what are you for? What do you want to present to your voters? And why should they vote for you? And yes, you should probably know what your opponent is for or against, and you can mention that if you're asked, but you don't demonize them. You don't sink to the level of name calling like you did in maybe junior high.
This is the call for civility, but of course it takes two to tango.
Right.
But in politics, as you well know, you've got people funding things that aren't necessarily directly related to the candidate. And that's what always happens, is that the first spitball sometimes is coming from an outside influenced agency, and then the candidate says, wait, that's not me, I have no control over that.
That's right, and we won't be able to do anything more but say, that is not my campaign, and I'm not supporting that kind of thing. But they can't do anything about it. If they're, that group has its own money and it's running its own campaign. That, I'm afraid, we can't do anything about.
Civility in campaigns is not an American thing, as you well know.
I know.
I know George Washington did just fine, but from John Adams after, you saw some of the most vicious campaigns. I mean, is this howling into the wind?
I don't think so. I think it's really saying, this is what women bring, actually, more civility. When I was in the legislature, I did, as a Republican, I worked with female Democrat women, and we would talk like for half an hour, and we would solve the problem, because women will even cross party lines to solve problems because they're problem solvers. So there is more civility in, well, in the legislature, and I hope that goes into campaigning. I was never attacked by a female Democrat. I certainly was by male Democrats. By attack, I mean now verbally.
And what about, I mean, the key right now, besides the fact that the campaign's just starting, is that you're concerned because you have a female candidate for governor, and this could be the very first time a female is elected, and that's the key word, elected, governor of Iowa.
That's right. This would be an absolute wonderful thing. It would be one of the goals of 50-50 in 2020.
Once again, for those that don't know, 50-50 in 2020 was the hope that you would get 50% men, 50% women in the legislature, if not every elected office in Iowa by the year 2020. Not going to make that goal, but you're seeing gains right now. And let's be honest, we're seeing more female candidates in a lot of different races than we've ever seen before.
We, in Iowa, we had 99 women on the ballot before the primary. 85 of them won. Now, that's not all, you know, it's not all state legislative. I mean, it's Congress, it's county supervisors, but that's a huge percentage. And women say, oh, I can't win. I'm saying you won in a bigger percentage than men this time. So the reason we don't have more women in elected office is women don't run. They can win in Iowa if they run.
Well, and you have been very active in not only recruiting female candidates, but also in some ways training them to think like a politician, or better than that, right, and to think as a potential lawmaker in the future. I mean, you're changing minds among potential candidates. I mean, how critically important is that as just the beginning of what you're trying to build?
I think it's critically important. In fact, all those women that actually put their name on the ballot for the primary, we didn't hand select them at all, but the momentum in Iowa, even the people, a lot of people know what 50-50 and 20-20 means now. And I think women thought, well, maybe I'll try this kind of thing, even though they didn't know about our organization intimately. So I think we did have an effect. Now we need to actually see that women win.
And this is a call, once again, a clarion cry, if you will, to have clean elections that aren't spitball, mud flinging and all that. How realistic do you think this is? Because, I mean, how do you enforce it other than one side saying you did it first?
You can't enforce it. You just put it out there. And this isn't just for women, this is for men too. But saying, if we want really good elections, people in Iowa, and I think Illinois too, they want to hear about the issue. They want to know, what are you going to do for me? And not taking pot shots at the other person. And yes, you might know what the other person's going to do, but you emphasize what you're going to do. And how not only do you want voters to vote for you, but you mainly want to say, this is what I want to do for you, and that's why I want to be elected. And we think now is the time to talk about that kind of civility.
Maggie Tinsman from the group 50-50 in 2020. WQPT is doing its part to support the military men and women in the cities who are serving our nation. We call it Embracing the Military. And the Army MWR is sponsoring a bus trip to Taste of Chicago for military men and women on July 14th. The bus leaves the Quad Cities at 6:30 in the morning, makes drop-offs at 2 locations at Taste and 1 stop at Navy Pier. The bus picks you up at 5 for the return trip home. Just $41 per person, and entry to Taste of Chicago is free. So reserve your seats now by contacting the MWR office before it is fully booked. On the air, on the radio, on the web, and on your mobile device. Thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues on the cities.
Public Affairs programming on WQPT is brought to you by the Singh Group at Merrill Lynch, serving the wealth management needs of clients in the region for over 25 years.